Hello everyone, Glass Half Dead here, taking a small deviation away from my staple diet of Kill Team and giving the big brother, Warhammer 40k, a shot. Specifically, the two new codexes, Adpetus Custodes and Genestealer Cults. Why would I do this to myself, you ask? Well, I enjoy making white dwarf reminiscent images, and it seems cooler when those blocks represent units instead of individuals. That's pretty much it. Also, as my Kill Team content is big enough to get early review copies, that includes all 40k stuff too, so thanks to Games Workshop for these. If you want reviews and rundowns of the rules, both of these codexes have their own videos on my channel, go and check those out. But for now, let's get stuck into a 1000 point Incursion level battle report, presumably set right at the heart of Terra, or, due to how flexible the 40k lore is, literally anywhere in the universe. Or out of it, in fact. Check the timestamp for the bit you want. We're doing army lists and tactics now, or you can jump straight to the pretty pictures of the battle report itself. Of course, once the battle is done, I'm going to do a larger discussion on how the battle went versus how I expected it to go and the things that I learned. Keep in mind that while I am a competent Kill Team player, I'm a 40k noob that just so happens to have access to early rules. So please take this opportunity to advise me on tactics and list building instead of expecting this to be a top tier tactical engagement. Or, if you're really engaged with this bat rep and analysing my playstyle, tell me which army fits it. Give me some advice where to go next. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the new rules like Carters and Crossfire. If you want explanations for those, again, check the video reviews that I've done on them. In here, I'm just going to be mentioning them when they come up in gameplay. Coincidentally though, we are playing Crossfire, Mission 2 from the GT 2021 pack, as it's the name of the Genestealer Cults ability, and that kind of amuses me. 5 objectives in a cross formation, which has 3 in no man's land, and 1 in each deployment zone. I'm playing at Troll Trader Bromley, a shop in South London / Kent, where the tables are free to play on, so thanks to them. The terrain used is the same stuff used at the LGT last year, just modified by me for the Incursion size board. The Custodes are running a patrol detachment of the Solar Watch shield host. They're running Trajan Valoris as their warlord, who could take 2 warlord traits, so he's got both Peerless Warrior and Superior Creation. The second HQ is a Blade Champion. Troops are 2 min squads of Custodian Guard, both having a single shield in them. For elites, we have a single Alaris Terminator with Misericordia, who is using the Obliteratum relic. Finally, we have 4 Virtus Praetors, all with Salvo rocket launchers and Misericordia. For Carters, I'm going Callistus Primary, Rendax Secondary, and Captaris Tertiary. Secondaries are Stand Vigil from the Custodes Codex, and then Grind Them Down and Assassination. In this map, with the Custodes durable units, I felt comfortable with Stand Vigil, making my game plan to move to the middle of the board and then sit there. Not exactly interactive, but in theory easy secondary points. Grind Them Down also seemed like a solid pick, as if my units are dying then I'm losing already. A bit of a win more secondary perhaps. And Assassination seemed an obvious pick against Genestealer Cults, an army based on characters. At 1k points I didn't have a huge amount of choice in army builds, especially when you consider that I didn't have any Sisters of Silence painted, and despite what you might be seeing in these pictures, I'm always going painted over non-painted models. With so few units, my tactical flexibility definitely felt limited, but luckily I genuinely think that the best bet is to stand on the middle 3 objectives and just hope I don't fluff any armor rolls. The heavy mining lasers on the Ridge Runners scare me, and I'm not entirely certain just how lethal the characters are, but I don't think the Custodes really have any other viable game plan. Hang around till the end, where I can point out everything I did wrong in this supposedly simple game plan. The Genestealer Cults are running a patrol detachment of Twisted Helix, taking a Primus as the warlord and the Alien Majesty warlord trait, adding to the range of his buffing aura. They're also taking an Icon Ward and a Jackal Alphas as HQ choices. For troops, they have 2 min squads of Acolytes with no special weapons, but both with the free upgrade of a Lash Whip, allowing them to fight on death. Then a 10-man squad of Neophytes kitted out with 2 mining lasers and 2 grenade launchers, and while we're talking troops, they also have a truck with demolition charges. For elites, they've got a Kelemorph, a Sanctus, and a Saboteur. Fast attack is where the list gets interesting though, with 2 Ridge Runners and their heavy mining lasers, and then 7 Jackals, including 2 grenade launchers, 1 demo charge, and a power weapon. The Primus, Saboteur, and 1 squad of Acolytes are all going into underground deployment, while the other squad of Acolytes are going in the truck. For secondaries, they've taken Brood Swarm from the Genestealer Cult Codex, behind enemy lines, and raised banners. Going into this fight, the cults are feeling strong with their numbers and their deployment shenanigans, and they have a decent amount of potentially high damage shooting. Nothing they can do about those invuln saves, but they do have pretty decent AP on a decent number of weapons. When it comes to the secondaries, they're feeling happy with both Brood Swarm and how that will mix with behind enemy lines. Not only a great pairing of secondaries in general, but especially so at 1k points, due to the smaller forces but triply so against Custodes, who have practically no way of shielding their deployment zone. With all that said and done, the final thing to remember before we get started with the battle proper is that if you're a subscriber to my channel, I'd like to give you a big circle hello. If you enjoy yourself a meta double pleasantry, then subscribe now and collect it in the next video. Also, if you enjoy my content more than a mere subscription, then consider checking out my Patreon that grants access to my Kill Team podcast, Vantage Point, plus a super cool Glass Half Dead exclusive data card template, and even the occasional early script or exclusive tournament stats breakdown or vlog. Deployment for the Custodes boiled down to get ready to jump on objectives, while the GSC, the main concern was hiding. You know, once I had to figure out what all the blips meant, at least. Going into turn 1, the Custodes win initiative and so have to go first. They start the game in the Martial Kata Callistus stance 2. Everything moves forwards but can't actually go any further, as then they would be closer than 9 inches, which you can't do in the movement phase when faced with Genestealer Cult blips. The arrow stays back just to be on an objective. At that point, all of the blips become real models. Poof! And the shooting begins with the Custodian Guard on the right flank, killing 3 neophytes, whilst Trajan and his buddies deal 3 wounds to the truck. And the salvo launchers from the Versus Praetors completely fail to do anything, as they are perfectly placed to not be able to see any enemies. Everyone needs a 9-inch charge, and everyone fails it. The Praetors have fly, but that doesn't do anything when charging, and their bikes, so can't go through the walls, meaning they don't even attempt the charge. Over to the Genestealer Cults, and they've come out of blips heavily on the left flank, hoping to put the Custodes off the point there. They move up to, at the very least, contest the point, and sure enough they get their troops and more models in range of the objective. End of the movement phase, the Primus, Saboteur, and Acolytes come out from underground in the enemy's deployment zone. Apparently you aren't allowed to do this, I've since been told, but I can't for the life of me see why, as the underground rules are written in such a way that a beginner like me would think you 100% can. C'est la vie. Plenty of shooting knocks Trajan down to only 3 wounds. The 2 new mining lasers get 2 shots through on the Praetors, but then double 1 the damage, so only knock 2 off a Virtus Praetor. 1 off the Custodian Guard with a shield on the right flank from the Neophytes, and the Blade Champion down to 4 remaining thanks to the Killamorph. The real People's Champion. Plus plenty of crossfire tokens all over the place. Into the charge phase, and they go all in on the left flank with the Primus giving Trajan the Genestealer's kiss, and the Jackals thinking they're better in melee than they actually are, which lets the Custodian Guard let them know their place as they take 0 wounds and then kill 6 of the 7. My gosh. At the end of turn 1, the Custodes score 3 VP for Stand Vigil, while the Genestealer Cults get 4 for behind enemy lines and 2 for Brood Swarm, making it 6-3 to the Genestealer Cults. Turn 2, and the Custodes move to Rendax stance 1. They also pop their feet turn, if I might borrow the War Machine parlance, so they can fall back and still charge. Throughout the rest of this turn, the Custodes end up using all of their remaining CP on random tactical rerolls. The Custodian Guard on the left flank fall back from the remaining Jackal, who at this point was just tying them up for no reason, and the Blade Champ moves up to get a better charge on the Neophytes. Shooting and the salvo launchers continue to disappoint, only taking Ridge Runner down to 2 wounds remaining. Guard on the right flank shoot the Neophytes, killing 3 more, making me sad I had to roll so many dice with the Blade Champion just to kill 4 guys. The left flank Guard shoot the remaining Jackal and kill the Primus on the charge, consolidating back onto the point but still being outmatched by the Acolytes there. Genestealer Cults turn 2, and the left flank repositions while the Killamorph tries to put distance between himself and the Blade Champ. Both the Saboteur and the Kilomorph roll so many ones I scare those around me as I fall into a blind rage. The Sanctus and Jackal Alphas continue to put through chip damage, dealing 1 mortal wound on a 4+2 wound, 1 on the Blade Champ and 1 on the guard on the left flank. Both shots then do no further damage because who knew Custodes are tough? At a loss for what to do, the Acolytes charge the guard on the left flank, and I realise that's actually what they should have done turn 1, as they managed to kill 2 of the guard and take the remaining down to 1 wound left. If you haven't figured it out, the Ridge Runners fluffed their rolls so hard I immediately put them up on eBay as punishment. At the end of turn 2, with the primaries now being scoreable, the Custodes get 15 from the primary, 3 from Stand Vigil, 3 from Grind Them Down, and 4 from Assassination as they killed the Warlord, scoring a massive 25 VP this round. The GSC keep in character and don't like to show off so much, only scoring 10 from the primary, 4 from behind enemy lines, and 2 from Brood Swarm, scoring them a modest 16 in round 2. Turn 3, and the Custodes move to Captaris Stance 1. At this point, I tire of the monotony of my Virtus Praetor's salvo launchers missing, and so do what they're supposed to do and move them up ready to charge, realizing that I can place the Alarus on the center point, allowing me to still score Stand Vigil. The Blade Champion moves up and charges the Kilomorph, who, quite frankly, never saw it coming, as he was presumably too busy looking in a mirror, telling himself that he really is the people's champion. But I guess the Blade Champion taught him a lesson on less preening, more championing. The Praetors split fire, but continue being very droll, and only do a single point of damage to the Ridge Runner. The Praetors finally do what they're supposed to do, and destroy everything on the left flank. It's crazy. Oh my gosh. The Genestealer Cults decided to actually participate in the game this turn, to the point that I wonder if their past low effectiveness had merely been a fever dream, as their weapons actually hit this time. Saboteur killing the remaining left flank guard, mining lasers mining the head out of the Alarus Terminator, and the Sanctus showing the Blade Champion that no one should hurt his favourite preening people's champion. Alas, it's too little, too late, as the scores at the end of turn 3 are Custodes 15 from primary, 3 Stand Vigil, 3 Grind Them Down, 9 Assassination, giving them 30. Genestealer Cults get 10 primary, 4 behind enemy lines, and 2 Brood Swarm. That's right, I am forgetting or unable to raise banners. The Genestealer Cults survey the failure of their uprising and concede, making the final score 58 to 38 to the Adpetus Custodes. Post-battle thoughts. 2 brand new armies in the hands of a 40k beginner, I think the outcome here is pretty much what we would all expect. Say what you will about solo battle reports, and thanks COVID for that, but at least we can rule out skill differential as a factor in the army's relative power levels. I think the final turn there exemplifies very well the robustness of the Custodes. Those Virtus Praetors should not have been sitting in the middle of the board at all, and yet I kept them there for 2 turns until I finally realised that their shooting was completely ineffectual and I should be utilising their amazing melee. They basically took down the Genestealer Cult left flank single-handedly and was what brought the game to a close. Imagine if I'd done that turn 2 instead, or as is very possible on this size board, turn 1. The Custodes stood up well to small arms fire thanks to their T5 and 2-up saves, and then all of the Genestealer Cult heavy shooting whiffed at some point in the attack sequence. Even when I lost Trajan before he could fight, the Custodes were pretty okay with it, because the Genestealer Cult shooting in melee had failed to have an effect anywhere else on the board, which meant that they were feeling very comfortable going into turn 2 despite the loss of their Warlord. Definitely a few poor decisions around CP usage. Even if I forgive myself for simply not knowing any of the stratagems, I should have used my CP rerolls turn 1 when my Custodian Guard and characters all failed their charges. As the Genestealer Cults, I went into this matchup feeling like I was in a strong position. Ultimately, I didn't realise just how good Custodes were at standing still on a point. I do think that I rolled a few critical rolls poorly, which would have had a big effect. My heavy mining lasers never performed as I had expected, and even when they did, the Custodes invulns were easy to make, apparently. Also, on a board this size, that truck really wasn't needed, and there were a few abilities that had a minimum range, for example on the Sanctus, which just doesn't happen on a board this size. Likewise, the effectiveness of being able to use Underground, the Genestealer Cults Super Reserves, just isn't as needed on this board, as even the slowest models foot slogging it around can get to where they need to. Due to the fragility of the Genestealer Cults, this is definitely the harder army to play, and that is borne out in the score of this game and the fact that the Genestealer Cults would have been table turn 3 if the Custodes had known what they were actually doing. Anyway, let me know if your thoughts differ on this battle report, as again I'm very much a beginner to 40k with probably only a dozen matches under my belt, and all of them at 1000 points, so it's not like my critical analysis of the game is where it should be. Once again, if you like what I'm doing here, consider leaving a like, a subscribe, a comment, a share to people you know, and supporting me on Patreon. Finally, if you've made it to the end of the video, I'd like to give you the greatly coveted Square Hello. Bathe in its wholesomeness, that's for you to keep. This has been Glass Half Dead. I hope you've had a good day and continue to have a good day. Goodbye.